Thanks for joining this tutorial, and this time we will be looking at some ways that you can filter out the items from the lists. And I've prepared a list of spheres all aligned on a single axis, and we'll be using that list to filter out certain spheres basically. It's going to be visual, and that's the reason I've set it up like this. Don't be intimidated by these components. So these ones are just used to set up the skybox, draw a grid on the ground, and create the circle here, circle face, and I've set up the directional light to give us some shadows. This code just creates the spheres, right? And we end up with a list of spheres. And here we will be using these components like item by index, a sublist, every nth, and we'll be filtering list by using a pattern. So these are all the examples that we'll use. You can find those same components here under the lists category. And here in this get subcategory, you see the item by index, sublist, every nth, and by pattern. So 4 components for one video. So this one's most simple, item by index. If you see what it returns, you'll see that it's a single object in the preview data component. And if I visualize this by drawing it, you'll see that it's here, right? So the first item in the list of those spheres. And if I go into this component, I zoom in and watch what happens on those spheres, right? So if I will increase this index, I'll get a different sphere. So if I go to 4th index, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4th is selected. It always starts with a 0. So the first item in the list is on the 0 index. So this one's simple, right? Pay attention to how this data is previewed as well. So this time we will be looking at something like a sublist, which means that the component will return us a list of objects. And we will be now visualizing that in the draw async component as well. And we return with a single sphere. The single sphere is green this time. But if I increase the end index, like I set it to 2, I will select 2 spheres now. If I increase it to 3, I will select 3rd sphere as well. So this is how it all works. And if you want to, for example, select items between the 12th and the 5th, for example, you can do it with this component as well. So this is really simple. You see that it now returned a list of objects here in this preview data component, and the draw component just sort of created a mesh that is having a green face. Okay, so now let's look into this component called getItem or every nth. And you can say to it that you want to get every second, every third, every fourth, and so forth item in the list. So let's see how that works. Okay, it now does this every second item, right? And it just filtered out some objects. And let's visualize those on the screen. So now you see that we start with an offset of 0, and we filter out every second. So this one's gone, and this is a nice looking pattern on the screen. If we look into the offset, if we say that we want to offset by 1, then we will skip the first one and we will start with the second one. And if we do the second, then you are basically getting back to original situation. So with this one, let's just use 1. And now let's try to skip every third. So now you see that we start with 2 empty ones and we select this one. And we do this pattern continuously till the end. And if I now offset to 2, you'll see that I will skip 1 and then I'll start this pattern with the second object, right? So this offset is really useful quite often, which depending on the list that you're working with can be a lifesaver. Okay, another component that is really useful is to create a pattern of booleans which will indicate which item will be required and returned. So I've created some complicated pattern here. So you see it starts with false, 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 and you have then true, false, true. So this is something that you couldn't do with this every nth component, and we do need to use the pattern then. So let's look at the output of this component as well. So it's just a list of JSON objects, right? And let's visualize those now. Okay, so what it does is you see the correspondence, right? So false, 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 true, false, true. And then it repeats again, false, 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 true, false, true. And it goes till the end like that. So if you would like to skip every second one, you can use the pattern like this. So let's then run the code, and you will see that it did update. And if you want to use this pattern like false, true, true, hit run, and you'll see that now this pattern is selected. So now we went through all of these 4 components. We looked how they work, we tried them out, and I visualized it in 3D so that you get a better understanding how that works. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and see each other in the next videos. Cheers!